books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book, The Alchemical Journey, no other than Mr. David Gilbert.
Hello.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. David. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Yes, my name is David Gilbert. I'm an executive coach now with Novus Global and also an author who was taking people through this alchemical journey, and I turned it into a fictional, even though it's based off a real life experience, a journey for people to go through their own transformation.
Mr. David Gilbert, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And beyond the metaphor, what is inner gold in a practical psychological or spiritual terms for a modern seeker?
Yeah, I like to have fun and I call it the soul gold. It's we think the challenges, maybe even traumas or the hardships that we face can be the lead that weigh us down from who we want to become or what we're ultimately trying to seek. And sometimes we try to bypass that or not jump into our own unique story. And by doing so, by going through the journey of identifying your lead, what's weighed you down in your past, or maybe some challenge or circumstance, and going through the alchemical process, like you get to turn that lead into your very own soul gold. And to me, that is the greatest gold there is. And that's the only thing you're going to get to take with you in this lifetime.
Truly gold, people, truly gold. Why did you choose the ancient framework of alchemy to map the modern journey of transformation?
Yeah, because alchemists were the ones studying the art of transformation for thousands of years. So I really connected the hero's journey plus this inner quest of transmutation, taking a lesser item into its highest potential, which is the art of transmutation is all about. And it also really started because one day I bought The Idiot's Guide to Alchemy. I had these tattoos on my arm that I got at different periods of my life. And I realized when I was reading that book that my tattoo sleeve, which was totally unintentional, tells the three phases of alchemy exactly. So
Mm.
for me, that was my personal moment where I was like, okay, there's something for me to dip into. Then I started like really jumping in and then always being into personal development and growth and a seeker myself. It's like, okay, how do we apply this process to ourselves? And then it was how do I apply this process to others? And now this is a journey we can all choose to take that is put into the book.
What makes this journey ultimate is not a destination, a state of being, or ongoing process.
Yeah, it's two things. It's the ultimate state of being that is a never-ending journey. Like in the book, I like to say that you're gonna have 1,000x, which is really just the entire time you're alive, you're gonna have alchemical journeys, and they can be micro and macro. It could be part of a day, it could be a whole lifelong journey. So as you start to seek deeper truths about life, one of the things you start to realize is there's nothing you get to control outside of yourself. So ultimately, if you distill it down, it's about the state of being and who you're committed to being or becoming. And this is the sweet spot where you cannot get as wrapped up in kind of external things and more focused on what can I do for myself, and how can I show up as my best.
How do we identify our own primateria?
Ooh, yes. So this is the first phase of alchemy is coming into terms with the pre-material, which is the unconscious force. You could even start biggest picture view, right, of the cosmos, of the universe, this unconscious force. It could be the force of nature, if we're talking about the planet, within ourselves. It's the unconscious within us. So this is sometimes referred to as the dark night of the soul. And this is where people they start to learn some things about themselves, and maybe they get a little bit scared. You start to learn things, and there's like, this is what people can call the shadow work, or the call yun, and going into the shadow self. But I like to remind people, you're just learning more about yourself. You're learning more about the unconscious patterns that have made you you. And there is gold on the other side. Because a lot of people sometimes they get scared of this phase, because this can also be the dark night of the soul. And from my own experiences, when I was really depressed and I didn't know all these unconscious beliefs and repressed feelings that I had, that were making me who I was today, and not as happy and joyful as I could have been. So the first phase is to get lost in the dark forest of your unconscious and bring these patterns to the light of your conscious awareness. And then that's when you start to get power over yourself, right? Because if you don't know the unconscious things that are controlling you, you're almost like a puppet on a string from other people's beliefs or society's beliefs. But it's when you start to look inward, look in the mirror, and bring the shed the light of conscious awareness onto those beliefs, onto the premateria. That's when you start to become the conscious creator of yourself and therefore your life.
Mr. David, how does the legendary philosopher's stone translate into internal capacity or state achievable through this work?
Yeah. So as you, first you have to be willing to take, you be the hero. And part of the hero's journey first is a refusal to the call. So that's just to say, the like universe will send you a circumstance, and you got to take that first leap into the unknown, which if I don't acknowledge that, that's sometimes the hardest. It's getting outside your comfort zone. And then from there, big picture view, kind of the three phases. The first one is what I talked about, and then the second phase is enlightenment. It's like the light at the end of the tunnel. And this is when you start to see your own potential, or maybe the potential for the life you truly want to create, that's from your heart, that's your own desire. And this is when you start to gain some momentum, right? This is when you're climbing a mountain and you're almost towards the top. And when you get to the top, you that's the moment where you really see the rays of your divine potential, or you connect to a power that's bigger than you. And you start to bring those old parts that maybe you didn't, like an inner child, or inner warrior, or maybe your inner king that you didn't develop over time. These archetypes within us that are sources of power, and we start to bring these within ourselves, and learn more about ourselves and appreciate ourselves and ultimately love ourselves more. And then after that, you go into the third phase, which is about grounding this new realization, this new like awareness of bringing all your shadow to light, and then opening it up your heart and bringing it in to own who you are, who you authentically are, what you authentically want to do in this life, what you authentically want to see changed in the world around you. And that's the process of integration to embodiment, right? And then also deeply connecting with Mother Earth, as well as you have an inner masculine and feminine, but it's really just the ability to turn on courage when you need to, and then lean on intuition when you don't know what to do, right? So courage and clarity versus intuition and receptivity to inspiration. And then from there, just declaring who you're becoming, and really grounded. And this is who I am, and this is the work, or the gifts, or the unique magic I want to share with the world.
Very well said, Mr. David. Beautifully, beautifully articulated. What are the most crucial impurities we must confront and purify during albedo stage, and what tools aid this?
Yeah, I'd say my own experience. I mean, the inner critic and the inner judge, right? And it's part of being human. We're all going to judge our whole life. We could try to pretend we're not going to judge. But this inner critic and inner judge is the one who keeps us away from our heart. And really, we're looking to go on this journey to bring the shadow of our unconscious to our awareness, so that we can ultimately transmute it. And how do we transmute it? We transmute it through our hearts, right? We go through life, and if we go through life unconscious without embarking on the alchemical journey, we're always going to look for love and worthiness outside of ourselves. Yet the real journey is to look in the mirror, to realize your inherent divinity and your inherent worthiness just for being. And from here you can start to open your heart, and as you learn to forgive yourself and forgive others, you will be able to like just find a new level of peace and contentment with life as it is, and not need to change the external circumstances as much. And to me, that is the art of true peace. The more you can live from that space, the more you could get to a place of neutrality of what's going on in the external world. And to me, that's just another word for unconditional love. And that's one of the most powerful states of being, I would say there is. So forgiveness, and with transformation, you have to let go of old parts of yourself. It's just like trees we see through every season. There's trees that their branches are dying and falling off. And if you just try to hold on to all these parts of yourself, it's like a tree trying to keep every one of its dead branches. So that's why forgiveness, again, is a really critical part of learning to let go and opening up your heart simultaneously.
Indeed, people empowering answer. Mr. David, and do these stages always happen sequentially? How do you make sense of the messy, cynical nature of real inner work?
Yeah, the easy answer is no. There is, there is this bigger journey of transmutation, and these are the phases the alchemists have really identified. And we can be in multiple different phases at different moments in our life. So it is a big soup of messiness sometimes you're jumping into, but we do at least have a guiding post. We do at least have a guiding post that if we jump into our unconscious beliefs and our unconscious parts of our mind, and then bring our awareness to that, we're going to start to discover things. And we're going to discover beliefs that aren't true about ourselves or the world. And then we're going to have emotions, really strong emotions tied to that. And as you release those emotions, then you're going to realize there's a kernel of truth that's worth keeping with you, right? This is the same if you had a hard circumstance as a kid that gave you a limiting belief or some form of trauma, and then you carry that truth with you. Like for me, a moment of feeling voiceless as a kid, even though it wasn't truth, like I get to carry that with me. And then as I step into the next phase of the alchemical journey, grabbing that truth and then starting to like conjunction bring it back, which is bringing it back into my heart, like being able to use my voice in something like a podcast brings me fulfillment because I made it through that challenge, right? So from there, conjunction is bringing these pieces back into your heart, back into yourself, embodying all the different parts, or owning your story, which I like to remind people is the only story in the finity of eternity. So like your story is unique and sacred. And from that moment of total acceptance, then you start the fermentation process. You start to really settle into, you're practicing forgiveness, you're healing the inner child or the parts of you that didn't get its needs met, and you're also building a relationship with your higher self, and that's the fermentation process, and learning how to, you know lean into intuition, or lean into courage to go do that hard thing that you didn't think you were capable of, but now you can. And then from there is distillation, which when you go through a deep transformation process, there's the new version of you and the old version of you, and you're going to oscillate between the two. It's distillation is going from heaven down to earth, your highest essence back to who you were. So appreciate that contrast is building you up to the new version of yourself, and then you'll land in the final phase of coagulation, and that's when you really start to embody, solidify this new powerful version of yourself, where you really start to become the co-creator of your life, not the victim of the prima materia or the unconscious patterns, either of yourself or others.
Mr. David, as an author, as a leader, and in spiritual alchemy, what are your short term and long term goals?
Yeah, my short-term and long-term goals is to create just more systems of transformation for others. So, as somebody who's ventured on the alchemical journey, continuing to and guiding others through it, one day I look to have a therapeutic center where I can take more people through this journey. That also includes community. but to really start to understand how we could use all these modalities we have today to our advantage, because this is a beautiful time to be alive. Now, you could say we're in the black phase, potentially coming into the white phase of awakening with humanity, and this is like a rebirth process on a collective level, which rebirths are messy as hell. So just like, there's so much going on in the world that the more you can do this work internally, the more you could find that safe space, no matter what's going on externally. So my big vision is to have a center where people can do this work together, as well as explore some of the most powerful tools of transformation, which today we have access to more knowledge of tools that we could use, such as deep meditation, or there's things like breath work journeys where you breathe for 40 minutes to an hour and you can get into an altered state of consciousness purely through the power of your breath. Plus, we know it's working as a therapeutic process. Plus, we know there's alternative things, right, in the personal growth space, or technology nowadays, like TMS therapy, even things like Muse headbands, which can teach us how to meditate deeper, as well as psychedelics, like mind-altering substances. Like we can now connect the dots of how to use the whole alchemist toolbox that's available to us to really create much lasting, more beautiful transformation, and hopefully, in my own perspective, help us just reconnect to the source of life and to a higher power. Which, when you have that in-person experience of it, it changes everything in your life. And to me, one of the biggest problems today is just so many people are disconnected from the humanity, from the source of life. And when they wake up to have those realizations and experiences, this is where the beauty comes. So that's one part. And then I can be overly ambitious sometimes. The other part is the work I do with Novus Global, where we are committed to creating meta performance culture around the world. And meta performance is metamorphosis. So, really, how do we reshape cultures, especially in businesses and organizations, to go beyond high performance? And I'll put my own lens on it. It's not typically of what you think if you want to go beyond high performance. Now we're going to shift from how do I become the best to what are we capable of. But with that, the tools underneath are actually love, ownership, integrity, and just being able to give like real, honest feedback to each other. And it's funny because when you start to do that, you see the teams change. They become advocates for each other's visions, really what each other want in life. And then they're able to give direct feedback to help those people through love get to that vision. Yet sometimes in the workplace, we don't want to give direct feedback, right? Or we don't want to be held accountable to our integrity. But we've actually seen professional athletes, the managers of professional athlete teams, from soccer to baseball to hockey to the highest performing CEOs, like apply this work, and it absolutely changes organizations from the inside out, and people are a lot happier, they get more done, and they do it in half the time because they're just removing all this extra resistance that isn't necessarily if you truly want to create the impossible. So my fun answer after all this is I just want to continue helping people transmute their inner and outer lead into gold, right? Those inner resistance, the inner trauma, as well as that vision that is so big for themselves or the world that it feels like lead weighing them down, but showcasing, no, we have the ability and the potential to go transmute that and create it today.
Good luck to your goals, Mr. David, and looking forward for more success. What would be your piece of advice for those people out there want to be like you?
I'd say dare to live your imagination. And so much of this journey is learning how to go from a victim mindset into a true co-creator. And with that, you have to embark on your hero's journey. You have to get a little bit uncomfortable, right? It's the fear of pain or the pain of fear that's going to keep you where you are today. But the more that you can do that, the more you could just take that next right step into your own story, the more you can become not only the hero of your own story, but the author of your own story. And to me, that's where life gets exciting. So dare to imagine, dare to dream a bigger vision for yourself, for the world and then dare to take that next right step. And then, just like the hero's journey or the alchemical journey, once you finally do that, the right guide is going to pop up at the right time. And you know the universe is working for you, not against you. And then that's when you can start to relax on a whole new level and commit deeper to your own journey or your own vision. And then you're going to one day get the fruits of that reward and uncover your own gold. And that's when your life will be overflowing with inner outer gold, and you can look back and just truly appreciate the life you created for yourself.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much for your advice, Mr. David. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people, my other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in second season, and my book 101 review in fifth season too. Comedy 101 in second season, and my food 101 in its fifth season as well. Geography 101 and fourth season, and my baby podcast, Law 101 and Mental Health 101. Love Letters in third season, and Movie 101 Review and Music 101 in its fourth season, and Science 101 and Sex 101 in its first season. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. Mr. David, reflecting on your own journey, what's one the pivotal moment or Negredo like experience that fundamentally catalyzed your own quest for inner gold?
Yeah, I'll say, I mean, the easy one is one part having kids helped facilitated that. But another one is when I did my first breathwork journey myself. And I had this visual. It cracked me open back to the night I lost my father, and it was like a visual of a walnut getting cracked open. And what happened when it got cracked open is all this energy came out, and that was all the emotions I repressed from the grief of losing my father that I thought I dealt with. And then that led to, after feeling those emotions fully, this insight of what did I learn from this. And then that is for me what came up of the idea of soul gold. So this is just the reminder again, underneath every hard circumstances you have in life, there's the potential to go through that pain and find the soul gold on the other side.
Yes, people look for the gold, not the silver itself. Mr. David Gilbert, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world through your book. So, can you please invite our listeners to support your book
Yes,
itself?
you can find the book on Amazon, The Alchemical Journey, The Ultimate Quest for Inner Gold. You can visit www.goldenlife.com or my personal website of David G and then Gilbert, GILBERT.com to learn more about the work I do. Thank you.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. David Gilbert because if you support him, more and more and more empowering books like this to come, more and more empowering advocacy to come. So, Mr. David, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me, Daniel.
More to come, people. See you soon.